for our annual meeting here. It's a little unusual to have our annual meeting in our nave, but this gives us a little bit more space for social distancing. I thought we could begin with a prayer, but for the sake of our quorum, we have 218 active members in our church, and per the canons, we're required to have 10% of our church gathered together. So the fact that we have more than 22 individuals gathered here together, we don't even have to count those gathered virtually. One of the resolutions at convention did allow us to count individuals gathered virtually toward our quorum, but we don't need to count those gathered virtually for our annual meeting. One thing we are going to try to do is incorporate any comments or questions from those who are participating in our live stream today. This is an opportunity for us to try out this hybrid approach to our annual meeting. Without any further ado, I thought I would begin with a prayer for a church convention or meeting. The Lord be with you. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. So, you may have noticed that we are adjusting to this unique format for our annual meeting. Now, if we have, I understand that Shirley may be counting the money for our Women of St. Barnabas bake sale, so we'll have to at some point entice her to come. Thank you. We'll have to entice her to come forward so that we can. So that she can stand for election to our vestry. Very, very grateful for the three individuals who have expressed a willingness to stand for election to our vestry. Those individuals, in addition to Shirley Newman, are Sam Batten and Beth Harper. So we have three fantastic leaders who have generously agreed to stand for election. However, part of our rules of order are such that these individuals are elected and are not predetermined. They're not predestined, as it were, to be our vestry members for the next 3 years. So as part of the good of the order, is anyone feeling led by the Spirit to nominate themselves or someone else to stand for election? If we have an additional nomination, then we could go through a balloting process to elect our vestry. Otherwise, we'll elect the three individuals who have agreed to stand for election by acclamation. And if those three individuals would be willing to come forward and stand, and as they're comfortable, provide an introduction so that those who may not know these three individuals as well might be able to get to know them a little bit. And Andy or Jessica, I don't know if you have. Oh, please. Great. Fantastic, Beth. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Beth
Morning.
Harper. I've been a parishioner at St. Barnabas for, the beginning date's a little fuzzy, roughly 15 to 16 years. While I've been at St. Barnabas, I've been active in the music ministry as a singer in the choir and playing guitar and leading our small group for retreats. And lately, during the pandemic, I am currently chairing the stewardship committee, which has been truly a joy. I didn't think it would be, but it actually has been. and I'm also very happy that I've been able to facilitate a couple of adult education initiatives at St. Barnabas, Sacred Ground this summer, and EFM, which started this fall, which is, again, it's a joy and a privilege to be doing. So I look forward to the opportunity to serve St. Barnabas as a member of the vestry. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Shirley Newman. I've been a parishioner of St. Barnabas for probably 15, 16 years. Time gets hazy. I have served on the vestry before on 2 different occasions. And it can be a challenge, but it's also very interesting, and I've enjoyed it. Part of what I've done for St. Barnabas, in addition to that, several years ago when we had a pumpkin patch, I was in charge of scheduling all the volunteers, and I would bring my laptop down, sit in the Richardson room, and have it all set out by time slots and put people in. And then that's basically what I've done at St. Barnabas. But I really enjoy this church. Everybody is so welcoming, and I've made some very good friends here. So I'm looking forward to contributing more than I have in the past.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sam Batten, and I've been at here at the St. Barnabas for probably about 35 years. So, and basically I helped in the youth when my daughter was attending. We did a lot of the things there for the Christmas pageant. We did the starting of the Christmas thing for the Santa thing. But basically, I just look forward to helping everyone as much as I can. Thank you.
Sorry. My gratitude once again for Shirley, Sam, and Beth, all 3 standing for election. At this point, for the good of the order, I want to make sure that there are no nominations from the floor. Speak now or forever hold your peace, as it were. Not hearing any, let's have a vote by acclamation for these 3 individuals as our newest vestry members. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes. This is a wonderful thing. This is the few. This is one of the few items of actual business that we have to conduct. However, we do have an opportunity for hearing from several of the leaders of our church. So, this time, if Grace, you'd like to offer your report as our fearless senior warden. There was a joke of, nominating Grace for another 3 years, and she's done so much already. This is
Thank you, John.
that would be not good, but very grateful for your leadership.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. We've just been through a really rough year, a very, very rough year. Just when we thought COVID was on its way out, the Delta variant came along, and we were juggling meeting indoors. Still no? No? What's going on? Do I have to? Is this better? Okay, thank you. Well, you didn't miss anything. So anyway, we had kind of a rough year. I don't guess any of us have ever seen anything like it, and we've juggled worshiping together, indoors, outdoors, indoors again, but under John's inspired leadership, and mostly with the amazing can-do spirit of you all, and with your good humor and ingenuity, we've managed to prevail and still be together as a parish, which is so very important. I have a few highlights to call out. John has a much better list, more extensive, but this is sort of a teaser for what comes later. And I just wanted to thank so much our regathering committee. It wasn't easy these last few months to kind of shuffle us in and out, and we figured out the Christmas schedule, which was, it's a big deal, and we figured it out, and I think that's just awesome. I have to shout out to the youth committee. They stepped in when we lost our director of Christian education very suddenly. They picked up the pieces, and the youth program is going seamlessly with our Sunday school. Adult forum, same thing. Now we're starting to meet more in between services, but for a while we had virtual coffee hours last year, then we had them Monday nights. So this is continued. Our parish life has continued together. And then Beth had mentioned, various educational opportunities, Sacred Grounds and EFM, which Beth is heading up, and we did our Lenten Way of Love series, which, gave us the opportunity to meet in small groups and share. I think that was very meaningful. Our outreach ministries, ASIP, ACA, Facets, Women of St. Barnabas, continue to be Christ in the world and serve others. And our worship ministries, our Altar Guild, lectors, crucifers, acolytes, musicians, Flower Guild, videographers, ushers, greeters, they keep the show running. And it's quite a production, but they do a lovely job. I also wanted to call out the in-reach ministries such as Caritas, Prayer List, lay Eucharistic ministers, and flower delivery persons. So thank you all so much. But what I really want to do to kind of close is recognize the vestry. I don't think you all have ever seen the vestry in one place at one time since the pandemic. So I would like to ask the vestry members present to rise, if they would, stand up. And I'm just going to call them out by name. We have Larry Stark, Baina Yela, Jonathan Barber, Sheena Friend, Sharon Jones, Norma Ricketts, Ellen Riddle, Don Schaefer, and we are ably assisted by our treasurer, John Westerland, and PJ Kennedy, and Ann Sales, our register. So I want to just thank you all so much for your service this past year. I also wanted to draw the congregation's attention to an initiative we have called VPOW, Vestry Person of the Week. If you look at the back of your service bulletin, you will see your Vestry Person of the Week. Yes, thank you. I should say yes. I'm just bustling forward with business, but yes, thank you so much, vestry members. And they have been your kind of on-the-ground representatives for this past year. The Vestry Person of the Week assists John and Catherine in whatever they may need. They're also a resource for you. The next VPOW, if you look at participants in the services on November 28th, will be Norma Ricketts. So please ask Norma if you need anything. And with that, I thank you all very much.
Many thanks once again for your fearless leadership of the vestry, Grace, and your Grace has a great gift for staying grounded and also staying connected to our church, to people, to the vestry, and her good humor is also a great gift to the vestry and to the congregation. I'm thankful for her leadership, especially through this past year. I'll take, yes. It is not an easy role that she has handled with good cheer and also with excellence. So, for me, I'll say that when I started to reflect on the past liturgical year, it was a lot. A lot has happened in the past liturgical year. Some of you probably remember Salal Cameron, who is ordained now and serving in the diocese. But he was our December and January seminarian, having grown up for a time in this church as a young child. He found it meaningful to return to this church after a couple decades of his own journey, but I'm especially thankful for Camille Mittelholtz's guidance of his seminarian committee, as well as for her leadership in gathering an ordination gift for Salal from our congregation. Not only that we could give him a stole, but also that we could provide him with some resources that were substantially helpful for him as he transitioned out of his third year of seminary and into his first call in a parish. So I think it was a great gift for this congregation to support him and give him an opportunity to express his ministry, given that the hospital context where he was previously was not really feasible given the COVID context. If you can remember back to January, the start of our secular year had what I would say is the best online Epiphany pageant ever. It was incredible. I would highly recommend revisiting the video to get in the spirit of Christmas again, but it was an incredible contribution led by filmmaker and editor Jessica Riddle, also our live streaming expert right now. But she had a lot of good help from a puppeteer, Andy and Steve, as well as from Teresa Merchant as our special events coordinator, and our director of Christian education, Mario York. A lot of support behind the scenes, but many of you may have recognized the voices of our voice actors, our youth, Laura, Leah, and Katie Westerland, Jordan and Alex Kennedy, Jacob, Joshua, and Michael Duggar, Johanna, Janice, James and Jay, Carol, and Amos and Kat Shelato. Many thanks also to Ellen Riddle for her support, and Stardom Riddle's appearance, I think, certainly brightened the Epiphany pageant as well. So, revisit that link. You can find it on our YouTube page. If you go to our online worship and then scroll to the bottom of that page on our website, you'll find our YouTube page, and you can scroll back through to January 2020. Feels like ages ago and also just yesterday. Some of you may remember and been able to participate in our Black History Month discussions over Zoom. This allowed us to learn about our history with regards to race, and specifically with regards to African American history. It was a great gift that Cricket, Betty Jo, and Sharon each led and facilitated a different one of our sessions, and that they were willing to share their writing in the reporter as well. It was an inspiring and meaningful time for learning, for conversation, and for us all to engage some of our work of racial justice and healing. Our diocese actually recently called the inaugural canon for racial justice and healing across our diocese. So St. Barnabas has, in the past, received the Meet Me in Galilee Award for the work that you all, as a congregation long before I arrived, you all did in the area of racial reconciliation and healing. And Dr. Hill's ministry as our canon for racial justice and healing will hopefully be able to continue that work across our diocese in the coming years. But that work is still ongoing here, and it's a vital part of the ministries of St. Barnabas, and something that certainly when Haley and I were first learning about St. Barnabas, we found especially inspiring, among many other things, about this congregation, is your commitment to racial justice and healing. February was also an occasion where you may remember Teresa Merchant kindly taking the initiative to gather our youth together outdoors for hot dogs and s'mores over the fire. Ellen, Michael, Andy, and Jessica also helped to make this event a success. In my mind, this was kind of the beginnings of our youth group, and what a powerful and important ministry that has been, to give our students an opportunity to share life together and have fun together, and also practice their faith and understand more about their relationship with the divine. We learn together in community, and we learn as we practice our faith together. It was a big adjustment to try to do all of these activities outside as much as possible with masks and social distancing, but I really am very grateful for Teresa's leadership, as well as Ellen, Michael, Andy, and Jessica. In March, we began our Lenten Easter small groups, as Grace mentioned, and Grace was one of our leaders for those times together. We also had leadership from Ellen, from Mariel, from Norma, from Sheena, and from Teresa. This was a way that we really sought to stay together, to learn together, and to support one another through a challenging winter and spring. And I think among the group that I was a part of, it was a powerful opportunity to learn about one another and also to reflect on our faith in a smaller context that allowed us to share our lives a little bit more. In April, we celebrated our first Easter together. Many of you may recall with the numerous precautions that we took to be able to joyfully take communion together in worship for the first time. Again, I'm very thankful for the Regathering Committee, the whole of the Regathering Committee, as well as for Molly Newling and her fearless leadership of that Regathering Committee. We felt like we were meeting every month for a time there and trying to discern, how can we gather safely, how can we protect our whole congregation, and how can we also be together and share our life together, and recognize Christ's inspiration in our midst. So I think the Regathering Committee was able to balance that safety and flexibility as we adapted to the difficult circumstances in which we found ourselves. The Flower Guild, you may have seen in our online worship the ways that those flowers were a powerful part of our inspiration across those times when we were doing online worship. And they were also flexible in being able to bring our flowers outside as we were worshiping outside. And very thankful for their ministry and their opportunity for the Flower Guild to help us bring flowers to those in our congregation who aren't able to be at church for whatever reason. The Altar Guild is also extremely important and extremely generous in their adaptability to not only set the table here and not only attend to the holy table here, but also to be able to create holy space outdoors where we're not used to worshiping together. Very thankful for the band, Beth, Lee, Crutch, Sharon, Jordan and Alex, and Laura as well. Lot of really important contributions from the band, and then some significant solos and additional musical pieces along the way by Hugh Agnew, Andy Riddle, Jessica Riddle, and Ellen Riddle. So I kind of want to make a note that, a separate note, or along with this, a note that Stephen Ackert has been absolutely incredibly generous. You know, I was kind of stunned when I realized that he was serving as interim minister of music in a volunteer capacity when I arrived, and he did that in the midst of a lot happening in his personal life as well. So there was a time where you may not have noticed that he stepped back from being our interim minister of music, but his piano playing, his playing of the organ, his playing of the keyboard outside, he is a true professional and a generous servant who brings an incredible depth of experience, not only to the forums that he's led, but also to the music that he's offered and selected for our worship in particular. So it is with much thanksgiving that I appreciate him, and I also, on a more personal note, want to ask you to express your appreciation for him as well as he unfortunately prepares to move out of this area in March. So it's a loss to not have him living here, but he is intending to return frequently. And his gift of musical leadership during the pandemic has been miraculous, to say the least. In addition to our services, he also was significant in helping with several of our funeral services. We remembered Phyllis McCoy at the end of May. Many things I learned about her that I didn't realize. I mean, I appreciated getting to meet her over Zoom in our spiritual coffee hour, but hearing from her family and friends in this congregation about all that she did across the course of her life was incredible. Similarly for Reverend Betty Dunlop. She served at Founder United Methodist Church when LGBTQ activism was just, at least in the Methodist Church at that time, was very much in its beginnings. And she was a part of that advocacy for our gay and lesbian and queer brothers and sisters and siblings. So Betty Dunlop, is a very understated individual, but she lived all across the world, and she contributed in a lot of different ways before she arrived at this congregation. And I know many of you knew her by her contemplative leadership, the quiet days that she would lead and the meditation groups that she would facilitate. Another privilege was meeting and getting to know Rusty Metz as we prepared for Barbara Fisher Metz's celebration of life. What an inspiring and powerful witness to God's love to hear about what she did in her life and also how her family and friends were a caring part of her life also. In June, you may remember, we celebrated Pentecost and St. Barnabas Day. This was also the time, June was also the time that we made a jump to outdoor worship together in, weather permitting, but in person, where before we were simply trying to stay connected virtually. So it was a great gift for Jessica and Andy to keep our congregation together with online worship across those months of not being able to gather in person. But it was also incredible to be able to gather in person, outdoors, when it wasn't raining, and be able to celebrate Eucharist together. Many thanks for our outdoor or our roller skating gathering organized by Simone and Ellen at the roller skating rink. And in August, the regathering committee was helping us adapt to the Delta variant by going back indoors for the month of August to stay out of the heat, but also back outdoors in September and October at 10:15 to be able to enjoy the good weather at that time in the fall. Over the course of the summer, we had a sermon series on some expressions of diversity in our congregation. I think that St. Barnabas has an incredible gift for celebrating diversity in many different forms. And then in the course of the fall, in September and October, as we prepared for Shrinemont, it was also very appropriate that we got to have a sermon series focused on creation. Which very thankful for James Carroll and Robin Erskine and their leadership of the endowment committee in approving 2 grants that will help us to improve our lighting and improve the energy efficiency of our lighting. So these are ways that we can not only increase or decrease our electricity bill, but also reduce our carbon footprint at the same time, and do so in ways that will serve our congregation for years into the future. So very thankful for the ways that as a congregation we've been able to do creation care beyond our parish workdays. Much gratitude also for Ann Radway and Molly Newling and their leadership in terms of bringing some additional native plants to our grounds so that we can have not only a beautiful and peaceful space outside, but also that it can be a haven for butterflies, bees, and other local fauna. Several people have pointed out the fox that appears sometimes by the labyrinth, and it's a great gift that these grounds are a place for vital ecological renewal. A couple other Thanksgivings as we returned to worship indoors. Once it almost seems redundant to give thanks for Michael Duggar and Cindy McLaughlin, but I am so thankful for their incredible service as our acolytes, as our worship leaders in the chancel, and for their guidance of our congregation in many ways, spoken and unspoken. But very thankful for both of them and for their great gifts in worship. Thank you also to Ann Sales for her fearless leadership as our Shrinemont coordinator, as well as our chair for our Christian Education Search Committee. That committee the vestry recently approved a posting so that we can begin to advertise that position and hopefully receive applications between now and the end of January. If you know of anybody or know of anybody who might know of others, please encourage them to apply. This is a time of anticipation in our life together and a great joy that we can begin to prepare for the future and the particular gifts that individual will bring by God's grace to our congregation, and especially to our learning as a congregation, to our students of all ages. I'm thankful also for Lee Kennedy and her leadership of our Minister of Music Search Committee. That is such an important part of our life together, and that individual will be a central part of our common life as a parish. And it's been a great gift to learn with that committee about some of the gifts that the applicants have brought. We have some strong applicants, and that process is being undertaken with a lot of diligence, and I'm very thankful for that committee and for Lee's leadership of that committee, because God willing, we'll have somebody in place in early next year, early 2022, and they'll be able to take us from strength to strength. Music is such an important part of our spiritual life that that individual is going to bring substantial gifts and help to deepen our own understanding of our musical history as well as our experience of worship, and be able to inspire our congregation over the course of the years to come, God willing. Very thankful as we got into November, very thankful for Don Schaefer, our chair of our youth committee, as well as the whole youth committee, as we relaunched our Sunday school after almost a year and a half of being apart and not having our regular Sunday school classes. This was a big effort, and it may not have seemed like a huge thing, but it was. And the generosity of our Sunday school teachers is incredible. Not only our Sunday school teachers this fall, but I'm also thankful for the Sunday school teachers who've served in years past. But specifically, this year, I'm so grateful, and I'll try to go in alphabetical order here. So grateful for the godly play leaders, Sunday school teachers, and youth committee volunteers. Amy Grupp, Andy Riddle, Dawn Schaefer, Jessica Riddle, Mark Patterson, Noah Schaefer, in his capacity as a helper with our Children's Chapel, PJ Kennedy, Sheena Friend, and Teresa Merchant. Many of you are already aware of Delilah Stearns, but her caregiving and support for our nursery-age children is so important for parents of young children. Thankful also for our Children's Chapel leaders of all ages: Alex Kennedy, Haley Boland-Shelado, Leah Westerland, and Noah Schaefer. The Buildings and Grounds Committee deserves many thanks, Ken and Camille especially, for our adaptation of our indoor air filters to be able to gather indoors. The indoor air filters reduce the burden on our furnace and our air conditioning, but they are an instrumental part of keeping us safe and giving us the confidence to be able to regather and be able to support one another as a church. So very, very thankful for their contributions to allowing us to regather indoors, especially as it gets colder. Thank you also. Thanks are also in order for James Harris, our sexton. There's a lot of cleaning and prep for outdoor worship that's behind the scenes that you may not see that James is doing, and I'm thankful for his contributions to our congregational life. In the office, thanks are also in order for Maria Botlek, our incredible bookkeeper. She does a lot and makes it seem very easy, but it's not easy, and that's due to her expertise and great gifts as a bookkeeper that she is able to help keep our finances on track, along with P.J. Kennedy, our assistant treasurer, and John Westerland, our treasurer. So many times John Westerland has been a part of a meeting, and he's been incredibly gracious in answering questions that somebody might have about a particular line item in the budget, putting together our 2022 budget, helping us to adapt through COVID. Where are we going to draw on which line item we're going to draw our funds from for COVID adaptation, since we didn't have a line item in the 2020 budget because we didn't anticipate that was going to happen. So many times where he's just been incredibly gracious in adapting our congregational life to these unusual circumstances. On the vestry, I've already given many thanks for grace. Larry Stark has been a great gift. Larry just brings such a depth of experience in our congregation and experience from your work as well, but I think your grounded perspective and positive approach to problem solving and keeping us moving forward has been a great blessing to our church. So I'm gonna miss getting to work with the outgoing vestry members, especially. I'd like to take a moment to recognize those individuals in particular. I've already expressed my appreciation for Grace, but there are two other outgoing vestry members that have contributed a lot to our congregational life in the past 3 years. I've only been a part of St. Barnabas for the past year and a half, but their service has helped to steward our congregation. Sharon Jones was the one who invited me to the installation for the new minister at Hope Lutheran Church, because she was playing there, and she figured, hey, it might be a good idea for you to meet together, and it might be a good idea for you to be a part of the installation for that new pastor. And she was right. And there are so many times where Sharon has this just grounded approach and kind of just an offhand suggestion that really ends up being absolutely the right thing. And that's just one small example. You've seen her leadership with the cello, but there are many times on the vestry where we're discussing a particular issue, and Sharon will just offer us a single comment that will clarify what it is that we need to hear and think about and understand as we're engaging that particular issue. And I'm so thankful for her faith, for her wise perspective on life, and for her willingness to lead from behind the scenes a little bit, because she clearly has an incredible understanding of what needs to happen and what would be good to happen, but she's not going to offer that perspective in a way that is kind of like, do this now, as much as just, hey, this might be a good idea, and she's right, more often than not. So The other outgoing vestry member is a man who's been a part of this church for a long, long time, Jonathan Barber. You may or may not know that Jonathan is a multi-generational Vermonter. In other words, he has some ancestors with deep roots in Vermont, and I think about that when I think about his good humor, his wise approach to life, but also his humorous approach to life, his understated wisdom, his commitment to reading and the life of the mind, but also his interest in art and the aesthetic. Many of you probably have seen Kathleen Stark's amazing painting in our narthex, and I fully encourage you to go see some more of her work at the art display of paintings of Mary. But Jonathan Barber's first wife, who has gone on to glory, but her paintings and her artwork remains and is a great gift. And you'll see it in the halls of our church. And I think about Jonathan's support of her and her artistic life in terms of his appreciation for some of the deeper questions of life. So I'm thankful for Jonathan and Sharon and Grace. I feel like there isn't a lot that I can add to my appreciation for Grace, except to say that I feel like along the way I kind of learned later on about all the different things that Grace is balancing and tending, and every time that happens, I'm sort of like just even more in awe of how much she makes it look easy, even though it's not. It's been a great gift to have your leadership this year, Grace. Any other questions or thoughts or inputs for the good of our common life together as we bring our annual meeting a little bit closer to a close? I'll make a note about Christmas that I've mentioned in the 8 o'clock service and in some of our electronic communications. Just invite you to think if you have any other questions or inputs for our congregational meeting before we close. But I'll remind you, please.
Yeah, we were going to say this. I want to remind people that we have a bake sale
Yes.
going on in the Richardson room. Encourage your support of that. That's our only fundraiser this year, that we support the various charities. Thanks.
Thank you, Camille. And as you stood up, Camille, I was thinking, maybe Camille is going to remind me, or to say something about ACCA as well. St. Barnabas is a founding member of ACCA. You probably know this already, but a lot of times when I'm assisting someone in need with the Rector's Discretionary Fund, which is an almsgiving, a resource for almsgiving, we can't always fix every situation, but we can substantially help. Sometimes I'm also directing those individuals to seek out assistance from ACCA. ACCA, does food pantry ministry, furniture ministry, as well as the ministry with our Child Development Center on Columbia Pike, and ministry with families who are in need in various ways. So Camille's role as our liaison is incredibly important, and there are many, many ways that we, through our connection to ACCA, are able to make a difference in the lives of those in need in our city and across our commonwealth. One other incentive to go to the bake sale immediately after this, even if it means getting to church a minute late, beyond the amazing food, is that in the Richardson room, there's a sign-up sheet for Christmas Eve services. We'll try to fit as many people in for Christmas Eve as possible, but the gathering committee is looking at a limitation of about 75 people, which is substantially less than our usual Christmas Eve attendance. We'll have it live streamed, the early service live streamed at 4:30, and we're offering a second service at 7 p.m. so that we can have additional capacity, but we are taking reservations, and it's first come, first served. So if you know that you and some friends or family members are planning on coming to Christmas Eve at a particular time, put your name on the list so that you can be sure to have a seat in the nave. We're looking to arrange overflow seating outside the nave, but if you want to gather in the nave, make that reservation now. The 4:30 prelude and 5 p.m. service will have congregational singing encouraged with masks on, and the 7 p.m. prelude and service will have more of an emphasis on instrumental music. If you'd rather not be in a space where congregational singing is happening. I'd like to close in prayer, unless anyone has any questions or thoughts for the good of our church.
I have one.
Please, George.
Another area where this church has been support is Bethany House. And it goes back to the late 60s or early 70s. And other churches in Annandale have started. And it's a nonprofit that supports Veterans House.
It's so important, and really appreciate you highlighting that. And hopefully, we were talking during the pandemic if we could have one of their representatives come and have a conversation with us here in one of our virtual forums. So perhaps that's something we can arrange in 2022. Any further thoughts? I thought we could close with a psalm. I think it's a great gift that our Book of Common Prayer has the Psalter in it. It's a different translation than just the New Revised Standard Version. And I think, in my mind, it sometimes invites a posture of a little bit deeper spirituality. So I wonder if we could offer Psalm 121 together as our closing to our annual meeting. And that will give us some time for the bake sale, the Christmas Eve reservations, as well as visiting before our 10:15 service begins. It's on 779 of the Book of Common Prayer. Page 779 of the Book of Common Prayer. I invite you to join me in saying this psalm together for our church. Let us pray. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where is my help to come? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who watches over you will not fall asleep. Behold, he who keeps watch over Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand, so that the sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve you from all evil. It is he who shall keep you safe. The Lord shall watch over your going out and your coming in from this time forth forevermore. Amen. And with that, our annual meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here and for your service and leadership as a part of St. Barnabas Church.